in context of Bahamian history. And again, what I'm saying is my opinion, right? So take it with a grain of salt, and you could have your own, and fair enough, right? However, my understanding of the pot cake is the pot cake came about because, in my opinion, because of communal love in a rural population that was more so farming based as opposed to city life, right? Because the indigenous Bahamian in our traditional communities, like this Emancipation Day, right? So you got Gambe, you got Fox Hill, you got Baintown, right? In these communities, let's say 50 years ago, 60 years ago, however you want to look at it, there was the economics, or on the Family Islands, that's an even greater example. On the Family Islands, there was very little yards being fenced in, right? In terms of economically speaking, in the inner city, you're probably going to have less fencing in of yards and more of a communal experience, right? In general. And so the dogs play into that. So we come from a rural type of experience in the Bahamas, and then we got kind of what you could say is kind of mixed together, so to speak. Like, I don't want to say encapsulated or locked in, but a lot of our communities, you call them like Fox Hill, Baintown, these is where we started off as the majority kind of Bahamian in terms of our ethnicity, right? And our dogs were in those communities. Okay, and so the pot cake came about because in those communities, when you have a dog, you throw in the food out, or you feeding that dog in the community. I'll give you an example. There's a family that I connected with just recently, and I got the mother and the father taken to bark so that they could get them spayed. But when you walk into the yard, the family love these dogs. They feeding these dogs. They caring for these dogs. But on the outside, when you walk past and you look in the yard, you would look and think, oh wow, these people are horrible, right? Because you would assume that there's no love and no care because the dogs are able to leave the yard, roam freely and whatnot. So free roaming dogs. But that's a culture based on a certain dynamic in the Bahamian historical experience that has now, because we're now modern and we have more population, this be more city-like, now that context is out of place. And so the pot cake and the Bahamian people, in my opinion, suffer because of this, because we don't get the traditional man's best friend dog experience. We get an overpopulation of dogs that is, yes, our fault, but historically we did not create the dynamic in and of itself that has morphed or evolved into what we see today alone.
Okay. We have a caller here. Let me have the caller engage you.